Yeah. I got there before the music started, before the line reached the door. A worker dragged a chair across the floor and left it facing the wrong way. A couple stood outside reading reviews, like the answer might be hidden there. I picked a table near the window, even though there wasn't much to see. The menu looked exactly the same as it probably did last week. Still, I read every item twice, like I was making a serious choice. Someone forgot their scarf on a chair, nobody touched it for a while. The espresso machine kept sighing every few minutes on its own. I wasn't killing time, time was doing fine without my help. For once, nothing needed speeding up. I thought I was waiting for you, turns out I liked waiting too. The ice melted slowly, the room kept changing shape. People came and went without leaving much behind. Nothing happened for a while, and somehow that became my favorite part. The seat across from me stayed empty long enough to feel familiar. I watched a delivery driver carry 3 boxes through the afternoon. A kid near the counter spun in circles until somebody told him to stop. He waited 5 seconds, then started again. My phone lit up, then went dark, mostly advertisements and reminders. I almost opened an old conversation, then forgot why I reached for it. Outside a bus stop, nobody got off, nobody got on. It left anyway. Funny what stands out when you're not looking for anything. The smallest things take up the most room. I thought I was waiting for you, turns out I liked waiting too. The ice melted slowly, the room kept changing shape. People came and went without leaving much behind. Nothing happened for a while, and somehow that became my favorite part. Most memories arrive with a reason, a celebration, a mistake, a goodbye. But this one stayed without doing any work at all. Just an ordinary afternoon, sitting quietly in the back of my mind. I thought I was waiting for you, turns out I liked waiting too. 30 minutes disappeared without asking where they went. The door opened, I looked up, and there you were, right on time. The strange thing is, I still remember the waiting part more than anything after it. The chair across from me wasn't empty anymore. The room sounded different somehow. The clock kept moving like it always had, and the first 30 minutes slipped away unnoticed. I saw the sign before I saw the door. The paint looked newer than I remembered. The chair by the window was gone, or maybe I just had the wrong one in mind. The delivery bike leaned against the wall, someone was laughing inside. I slowed down without meaning to, then kept walking anyway. For a second I almost checked the menu, even though I knew I wasn't staying. The same bell still hung above the entrance, ringing every time somebody came through. A stranger held the door for another stranger, like they'd done it 100 times before. Everything looked completely normal, which somehow caught me off guard. I thought I'd feel something bigger standing there again, but mostly I just noticed the weather. It was still there, right where it always was. The same corner, the same street, the same light above the door. I didn't go in, I didn't need to. Some places stay with you without asking you to stay too. Reflected more sky than before, or maybe the buildings changed, I couldn't really tell. The bookstore next door had different posters. The florist wasn't there anymore. A kid walked past carrying a soccer ball, and for a moment that seemed more important than the memories. Yeah, years ago I knew exactly where to sit, what to order, which table stayed empty longest. Now somebody else probably does, and honestly that felt about right. Nothing was missing, nothing was waiting. The place kept going like it should. It was still there, right where it always was. The same corner, the same street, the same light above the door. I didn't go in, I didn't need to. Some places stay with you without asking you to stay too. Maybe that's why I kept walking, not because it meant less, not because I'd forgotten, just because some things don't need revisiting to remain part of your life. It was still there, and that was enough. The door opened, someone else walked in. The bell rang once, then disappeared into the afternoon. I kept moving without looking back again. Not because it didn't matter, because it already did. The street carried on, the traffic lights changed, and somewhere behind me the place stayed exactly where it was. I found a note buried near the bottom, between grocery lists and reminders. Just 4 words on a blank screen, no date, no explanation. I stared at it longer than I should have, trying to remember what version of me wrote it down. There was another one right below it, just a street name and a number. I don't know if it was important or if I thought it would be. Back then I must have had a reason. Now it looks like a message sent from somebody else. Funny how a few forgotten words can make a whole afternoon stop. It's still in my phone, long after the moment left, long after the reason disappeared. The note stayed where I put it, like it never got the news. I don't remember writing it, but I remember being the kind of person who thought it was worth saving. One said, blue door after sunset. Another just said, don't take the shortcut. Neither one helps anymore, neither one explains itself. They're like photographs with everything cropped out. I kept scrolling further back than I meant to, finding old versions of ordinary days, tiny things I didn't want to lose. Most of them made no sense, some of them almost did, which somehow felt worse. The strange part isn't what's written there, it's wondering who I was talking be myself. It's still in my phone, long after the moment left, long after the reason disappeared. The note stayed where I put it, like it never got the news. I don't remember writing it, but I remember being the kind of person who thought it was worth saving. Maybe that's what memory becomes. Not a story, not a lesson, just scattered evidence that somebody was here paying attention to things that no longer matter. It's still in my phone, a small unfinished archive of places I stood and thoughts I never followed. I could delete it all tonight and probably lose nothing except a few quiet clues about who I used to be. I locked the screen, set the phone back down, and for the rest of the evening, those four forgotten words stayed with me. Found it in my jacket pocket, folded into a square so small. I almost threw it out without looking, then noticed the date at the top. A bottle of water, a pack of gum, something I can't even read anymore. The ink was already fading. Nothing expensive on the list, nothing worth remembering, just ordinary things from an ordinary afternoon. The store was probably busy, the cashier probably said have a good day, and I probably answered without thinking twice. Funny how a piece of paper can keep a day from disappearing. A bottle of water, a pack of gum, a receipt I never meant to keep. Somewhere between the total and the crease down the middle, an entire afternoon stayed behind. Not because it mattered then, because it happened at all. I tried to picture where I was going after walking out that door, but the details wouldn't stay still. Every memory changed a little. I remember carrying a bag, I remember checking the time. Everything else comes and goes, like a station scene from a train. The corners were worn down, like it had traveled farther than I did through laundry cycles. Different seasons, different jackets, all that time just sitting there quietly, waiting to be noticed again. Most days leave without warning. This one left a receipt. A bottle of water, a pack of gum, a receipt I never meant to keep. Somewhere between the total and the crease down the middle, an entire afternoon stayed behind. Not because it mattered then, because it happened at all. Maybe that's all memory is, not the big events, not the important conversations, just small evidence that we were somewhere on a certain day, paying attention without realizing it. A bottle of water, a pack of gum, a receipt I never meant to keep. I could throw it away tonight and lose almost nothing except one quiet reminder was still there. The total was still there. And for a moment, so was that afternoon. My hand went there again this morning, before I even thought about it. Same jacket, same doorway, same routine as yesterday. The pocket was empty, like I should've known. Still I checked twice, just to make sure. It's been somewhere else for weeks now, maybe longer. I stopped keeping track, the new place makes more sense. It's easier to reach, more practical. But my hand hasn't agreed yet. Funny how habits stay behind long after the reason moves on. Wrong pocket every single time, like part of me missed the update, and nobody told it why. I find what I'm looking for a few inches away, but my hand still takes the old familiar route. I noticed it at the grocery store, then again waiting for a light. A small pause, a quick correction. Nothing anybody else would see, just one of those quiet mistakes that keeps repeating itself. Maybe it isn't about the thing itself, maybe it's about the motion, the path my hand remembers without asking permission. The body learns slowly, the body forgets slower, and somewhere between the two I keep reaching for yesterday. Not enough to matter, just enough to notice. Wrong pocket every single time, like part of me missed the update, and nobody told it why. I find what I'm looking for a few inches away, but my hand still takes the old familiar route. Most changes happen quietly, no announcement, no clear beginning. One day something is different, and a month later you still catch yourself living by the old version. Wrong pocket one more time, then maybe once again tomorrow. The thing was never lost, only moved, but somehow that tiny distance feels bigger than it should. I found it where I left it, just not where I remembered. And for a second, those felt like different places. I walked the same way home again, past the bakery, past the lights, past the corner where the buses stop. Something felt different for a second, then disappeared before I caught it. Like a word I almost remembered, then lost again. It wasn't until 3 days later, standing at the same crosswalk, that I finally noticed the space where it used to be. I couldn't even say what color it was without thinking first. Funny how something can be familiar without ever being examined. I saw it nearly every day and somehow never really looked. It used to be here, right between the traffic light and the newspaper box. tried to remember the last time it was still there, but every version felt made up, every guess sounded borrowed. Maybe it disappeared last month, maybe last week. Maybe I've been walking past it without noticing for longer than that. People still crossed the street, cars still stopped at the light. The afternoon carried on without asking for my opinion. Nothing else had changed, at least not enough to see. Yet somehow the whole block felt rearranged. The strange part isn't that it's gone, it's not knowing when it happened. It used to be here, right between the traffic light and the newspaper box. I don't know when it left, I only know it's gone. And now that space feels louder than it should. Maybe that's how most things leave, without a final scene, without an announcement. One day they're part of the background, then one day they aren't. And nobody can point to the exact moment everything changed. It used to be here for years. That was enough, I never stopped for it. Never took a picture, never thought to remember it, until the day there was nothing left to remember from. Tomorrow I'll walk the same route, past the bakery, past the lights, past the corner where it used to be. And for a second I'll probably look there again. I noticed it by accident, halfway down the block. The same road home, the same row of buildings, the same tired grocery sign, the same traffic sound. And something felt unfamiliar without saying why. A window on the third floor stayed dark all evening. I don't know who lives there, never have. Couldn't tell you a name, couldn't tell you a face. Still I slowed my pace when I looked up. Funny how a small detail can change the shape of a street. Usually on every night I can remember a quiet square of light floating above the sidewalk. I never thought about it much until it wasn't there, usually on. That's all I really knew. People passed without noticing, cars rolled through the intersection. The convenience store stayed open. The bus arrived on time, everything kept moving like it always does. The street didn't seem concerned at all. Maybe it means nothing, maybe someone's awake, maybe they fell asleep early, maybe they moved out weeks ago. And I'm only now catching up to a change that's already old. Some things become familiar without ever becoming important. Usually on every night I can remember a quiet square of light floating above the sidewalk. I never thought about it much until it wasn't there, usually on. That's all I really knew. There are pieces of every day we don't mean to memorize. suddenly you realize they were there all along. Usually on, maybe tomorrow it'll return and this whole thing will stop mattering. The window will glow again, the street will look the same, and I'll forget I ever noticed until the next small change arrives. I turned the corner, kept walking home. The building stayed behind me, dark and quiet, holding a question I didn't need answered. I turned down a street I didn't know, just to see where it went. No plans, no reason, just a little extra time. The buildings weren't familiar, the names meant nothing to me. Still something about the place felt strangely easy. A bicycle leaned against a fence, a radio played through an open window. Someone watered plants on a balcony like they had done 100 times before. Everything belonged to somebody else, everything was completely new. Yet I walked a little slower like I already knew the route. I couldn't place it, couldn't explain it, but the feeling stayed somehow familiar. Like a scene I missed by a minute, like a conversation I almost overheard. I had never been there before, at least not that I remember. Still the whole street felt one step away from recognition. The traffic sounded softer there, or maybe I was paying attention. A corner store closed for the night, someone stacked chairs inside a cafe. The evening settled into place without asking anything from me, and for a while that felt enough. I checked the street sign twice, still didn't know the name. The windows started lighting up one after another. A train moved somewhere far away, too distant to follow. I kept walking like I had forgotten something, though I couldn't tell you what. No destination changed, no story revealed itself. I just stayed with the feeling a little longer than expected. The longer I stayed, the less I needed a reason. Somehow familiar, like a scene I missed by a minute, like a conversation I almost overheard. I had never been there before, at least not that I remember. Still the whole street felt one step away from recognition. There are places that welcome you without trying. No sign, no invitation, just a quiet sense that you've arrived somewhere you don't need to understand right away. Somehow familiar, even as the lights came on, even as the sky turned darker. I kept walking, not searching for anything, not looking for answers, just following the feeling for a little longer. Eventually I reached the main road. The feeling faded with the traffic, but every now and then I still think about that street and wonder what felt so familiar. The train slowed down, and for some reason I stood up before I thought it through. This wasn't my stop, Not the one I usually take, just another name on the map, passing by like always until tonight. The door's open, nobody seems surprised. A few people stepped off, a few people stayed behind. I followed the first group out without much of a plan, just enough curiosity to change the evening a little. Nothing dramatic, nothing new, just a small turn in a familiar direction. A different exit, a different set of stairs, a different view waiting at the top. I wasn't looking for anything, I wasn't trying to get lost. I just wanted to see what happened next. Yeah. There was a convenience store near the station entrance, a row of bicycles locked beneath the sign. Someone carried takeout home, someone walked a dog. The whole neighborhood already knew where it belonged. I didn't stop for long, just followed the streets until they started feeling familiar. In a different way, the kind of place you could pass through once and still remember later, without knowing why. Some evenings asked for plans, this one asked for a little space. A different exit, a different set of stairs, a different view waiting at the top. I wasn't looking for anything, I wasn't trying to get lost. I just wanted to see what happened next. The station lights faded behind me, one block became two, then three. The route stopped matching memory, and that was kind of the point. No destination change, no great discovery happened, just unfamiliar sidewalks and a little more attention than I usually give the world. Sometimes that's enough, sometimes that's the whole reason. Maybe every city has hundreds of versions living side by side, a street away from each other, waiting for someone to take a different turn. A different exit, a different evening, the same sky overhead, the same train line home. I could leave whenever I wanted, that made it easier to stay for a little while and keep walking. Eventually I found the station again. The signs pointed where they always had. The train arrived, the doors opened, and for a moment the ride home felt new. I was halfway through a thought when the street went by, the one I usually take without thinking twice. A familiar corner, a familiar sign, already behind me by the time I looked up. I could have turned around, it wasn't far, just a minute back, maybe less. Instead I kept moving, hands in my pockets, watching the windows change one block at a time. Some mistakes asked to be fixed, this one didn't seem to care. Missed the turn, didn't mind, kept walking for a while. The route got longer, the night got quieter. Nothing important happened, and that was kind of the point. And that was kind of the point. The laundromat still had its lights on. Someone was reading by the glass. A bicycle rolled past slowly, music leaking from one earbud. The city felt different there, not unfamiliar, just slightly out of sequence, like a song skipping ahead. I stopped at a crossing I didn't recognize, not because it was far away, just because I never came this way. Funny how a few extra blocks can rearrange an evening without changing much at all. The longer I walked, the less it felt accidental. Missed the turn, didn't mind, kept walking for a while. The route got longer, the night got quieter, nothing important happened, and that was kind of the point. That was kind of the point. Yeah, no new destination, no hidden place to find, just another stretch of sidewalk I usually leave behind. A different row of buildings, a different set of lights, the kind of details you only notice when you're not trying to get anywhere. Maybe I was late, maybe I wasn't, either way, the evening kept going. Most days follow a line from one place to the next, but every now and then the line bends a little, and you follow it just to see what happens. Missed the turn, still got home just a little later than expected. The streets grew quieter, the air felt lighter, and for a moment the longer way felt right. Eventually I found the road again, the one I always use, but by then it didn't feel quite the same as it had before. The train pulled in, right on schedule. I stepped into the same car without thinking. Second door from the front, a few rows down. The route knew itself better than I did. Then I saw someone sitting near the window seat, the one I always choose. When it's available, they looked up for a second, then back at their phone, like nothing unusual had happened. And honestly, they were right, it wasn't mine, never was. Still I stopped for a moment. Same seat, different view tonight. I sat across the aisle and watched the city pass by from an angle I never noticed, through a different piece of glass. Funny how a small change can move the whole evening. There was a mural near the station I never seen before, a rooftop garden behind a building, a sign missing 2 letters, a dog waiting outside a bakery. The train had passed them every day, I just hadn't looked. The city seemed wider somehow, not bigger, just rearranged, like somebody shifted the furniture in the room I know well. And suddenly I noticed every corner again. The route stayed the same, the attention changed. Same seat, different view tonight. I sat across the aisle and watched the city pass by from an angle I never noticed, through a different piece of glass. Funny how a small change can move the whole evening. Nothing went wrong, nothing needed fixing. No missed train, no change of plans, just a different place to sit, a different line of sight. The kind of thing you forget by tomorrow, except tonight. The city felt newer than it had in weeks, and all it took was looking from somewhere else. Maybe every routine has another version hiding inside it, waiting quietly for one small thing to land somewhere different. Same seat, at least in my head. The habits stayed behind even when I didn't. The lights rolled past one station at a time, and for a little while the familiar felt unfinished. Tomorrow that seat might be empty. Tomorrow I might sit there again. But tonight the city looked different, and I was glad I saw it. Yeah. The clock above the kitchen light has been wrong for months, maybe longer. I noticed it one morning while making coffee, 3 minutes ahead. Nothing dramatic, just enough to catch my eye. I thought about fixing it more than once, standing on a chair with one hand on the frame. Then something distracted me, or maybe I changed my mind. Either way, it stayed that way. Funny how small mistakes can settle in and unpack. 3 minutes early every single day, long enough to matter, not enough to change. I know it's not the right time, still I look at it first. Somewhere along the way, it became the version I trust. Guests point it out sometimes, then laugh when I explain, like it's a problem waiting for a solution. But the strange thing is, I barely notice anymore. The wrong time became familiar, and familiarity works fast. One afternoon I finally fixed it, turned the hands back slowly, watched everything line up exactly as it should. Then spent the rest of the evening feeling slightly off balance, like the room had moved a few inches to the left. The correction made sense, the comfort disappeared. 3 minutes early every single day, long enough to matter, not enough to change. I know it's not the right time, still I look at it first. Somewhere along the way, it became the version I trust. It never made me late, never made me early, not really. The difference was small, the kind you stop noticing after enough mornings. A quiet adjustment built into the background, like a shortcut through a familiar street, or a song you hum without realizing you started. Maybe that's what habits are, tiny agreements made without a meeting. Little changes that stay long enough to feel official. 3 minutes early and suddenly right. The numbers look better, the room felt strange. I fixed the clock, but for a while I kept doing the math in my head anyway. Now it tells the proper time, exactly as it should. But sometimes I still glance at it, expecting 3 extra minutes, waiting for me there.